welcome to another segment of Anderson County Serves Here. If you remember in our last segment, we were at the YMCA. And why were we there? The same reason we are here at the Salvation Army today. That is because United Way's original 5 agencies included both the Y and the Salvation Army. We're happy to be here with Major Joe Irvin, who is going to talk about the work of the Salvation Army. But before we get to that, I also want to thank our County Administrator, Rusty Burns, and County Council for giving us an opportunity to talk about the service in Anderson County on the County TV channel. So, Major Joe, we're so happy to be with you today. Tell us about the beginning of the movement of the Salvation Army.
All right, well, thank you, Carol. I'm glad to be here myself. The Salvation Army began its worldwide ministry in 1865 in London, England, in the slums of East London. The founders of the Salvation Army, William and Catherine Booth, were Methodist ministers, and William had a passion for evangelism. So he and his wife, they actually left the church, they left the pulpit so that he could, and they both could work full-time in what was then known as the East London Christian Mission. And their early work there, they discovered and happened upon a formula for effective evangelism. They realized that men and women in crisis weren't very receptive to the gospel. And they stumbled upon this formula, which is soup, soap, and salvation. And that shows that the Salvation Army recognizes that we have to address the entire person. The mission of the Salvation Army is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to meet human need in His name. And William and Catherine, when they discovered this formula, they realized that if they could take care of the basic needs of man, meet his human needs, take care of feeding them, providing shelter, they become far more receptive, and they're able to deal with their eternal needs, their greater needs, their spiritual needs. And that formula was so effective that the Salvation Army quickly spread around England. And then one day in 1878, and they were, the Christian Mission at that time was doing their annual report, and they were working on the cover of that annual report to talk about what they had been doing in England and the Great Britain. And it said that the Christian Mission is a volunteer army. Well, one of the founders' children was offended by that. He said, "I'm a regular or I'm nothing." And so they thought for a second, and they scratched out volunteer, and they put in the Christian Mission as a Salvation Army.
Aha.
And so that captured everyone's imagination. William became the general. He was the superintendent. He became the general. All of the clergy that were involved in the Christian missions work at the time became officers. That's why I'm Major Joseph Irvin and not reverend or pastor. And all of the lay members became soldiers, and we put on uniforms, and we got big brass bands and marched around the world inviting people to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ.
So when did the Salvation Army come to America?
1880.
1880, okay.
The Salvation Army launched its work here in the States in 1880 in Philadelphia, and the Salvation Army arrived here in Anderson in 1910.
1910. What a great history. And I did not know, I've heard all about the Booths before, but somehow I never made the connection of them being Methodists. And I'm Methodist, so great connection to the Salvation Army and its history. And when you think about the work of the Salvation Army, as you were just talking about, before people can be receptive to the gospel, if they're hungry, it's kind of like if you're sitting, even now if you're listening to a preacher too long and you get hungry, you're like, okay, I'm ready for lunch. But when you think about it to a much greater degree than the fact that I've just skipped breakfast maybe, that they maybe haven't eaten for days, or they don't know where they're going to sleep at night, and we're wanting them to accept the gospel, your work becomes meeting those basic needs first. And I think the Salvation Army here in Anderson it has and is doing a great job with that. Tell us about the services that you are now providing here in the Anderson community.
Yeah, the Salvation Army's, our marquee programs are our Boys and Girls Club, which since COVID we've not been able to reopen, but we're working hard to get that reestablished and that important service to our young people in the community back up and operating. But currently and through COVID, and matter of fact, our services increased through the pandemic with our Stringer Emergency Lodge. So the Salvation Army provides shelter to homeless persons, men, women, and families. And last year, we served over 1,500 people, providing 45,000 meals and 14,000 nights lodging, which means over 14,000 times somebody laid their head on a pillow at the Salvation Army or in a facility that we provided shelter for them.
And I know that during COVID, one of the most important things that you all did, you not only sheltered them at night, but because of the contagious nature of COVID, letting them go out and come back in was not an option. So I know that you fed them their meals during the day. You offered snacks. You offered opportunities for children to be entertained, so to speak. And the great work that you did in making those things available almost immediately upon COVID. I highly thank you and admire that work. We all found ourselves in the nonprofit community needing to change our operation almost on a dime, and I think the Salvation Army did a great job with that. And so talk about, you came to Anderson pretty much right in the midst of COVID. Tell us about where you'd been before coming to Anderson in your work.
My wife, Major Melissa, and I have been officers for 19 years. And 18 of those years we served in another division, another regional region of the Salvation Army, Kentucky, Tennessee. And we served in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, then in Bristol, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, Middlesboro, Kentucky, and Knoxville, Tennessee. And so now we're here in Anderson, and we hope to be able to spend a few years with you good people.
Well, we're hoping you can stay here too, because one of the things when the officers of the Salvation Army change, if they change frequently, it's hard for the vision that you might have to be able to come to fruition. So we're excited about your desire to stay here, and we hope that the higher ups see that as a value. I will say that during COVID, one of the things that United Way partnered with the Salvation Army to do was a showering station out front. There is a great organization in the community called Clean Start that offers homeless folks an opportunity to get a shower, breakfast, and to wash their clothes. But during the height of COVID, their volunteers were older. They were not as comfortable. So having the homeless population have a place that they could shower was very important. And thanks to the Saluda Baptist Association, the Salvation Army, AmeriCorps, and a host of other volunteers from the Lot Project and others, we were able to pull that off. But we couldn't have done it without the Salvation Army and the space here.
Yeah, we provided the space. Everyone else provided the volunteers, and I believe the Sheriff's Department provided the equipment, the showering equipment. But that just goes to show you that when the community pulls together, just about any kind of emergency or any kind of need can be met. Looking forward, and you were talking about Melissa and I staying here for a little while to help with the leadership and the vision. Carol, I think probably the Salvation Army's greatest need going into the next few years is going to be to address our capacity to provide services. The need for our services is increasing. Funding has to increase, and to match that, we also need to be able to increase our capacity to be competitive in the job market. We, as a charity, most nonprofits are not competitive pay-wise, so we're going to need additional funding so that we can pay our employees a competitive wage. They deserve it. They work very hard. And from everything from our advisor organizations to getting the right contacts, getting people from various industries and sectors throughout the economy so that we have a good representation and that we keep our fingers on the pulse of the community needs and where we can get the resources to meet those needs.
I know a few days ago we were having a discussion and we're talking about those that have donated to many of the long-standing organizations, in particular in the community. They're aging. And how do we fill that gap of younger donors that really can grasp the vision of the work, whether it's the Salvation Army, United Way, or other organizations within the community? Do you have ideas of how you can engage younger volunteers and donors?
Well, that goes back to the capacity issue and concerns that we have. Our traditional way of communicating and engaging our donors is through direct mail. Many people will get direct mail pieces throughout the year that provide information on Salvation Army services, as well as a solicitation asking them to support. The younger generation's direct mail is not how they communicate, and what we have to be able to build into our public relations work is the online component. And right now, matter of fact, that we've sent our online guru, Jennifer Hess, to the Salvation Army's Evangeline Booth College in Atlanta to become an officer. So we've lost our online content creator and the monitor, and who was the lead engagement person for our online work. So we have to find someone else to fill her shoes, and also to develop the expertise and the platforms. That's always evolving. And I'm 53, but I'm tech challenged. I'm not old, but I'm tech challenged. I don't do Facebook, and I have a minimum online presence personally. So I am not very familiar with the platforms such as Twitter and Facebook. But even then, as soon as you get some competency in those platforms, another platform will come along, and this is always shifting and different systems for you to go out and reach out and have an online presence. So it'd be nice to get someone very comfortable in that environment to help us with engaging our donors and our supporters and getting the message of the Salvation Army out there in the community.
Right. You spoke a few minutes ago about the Stringer Lodge, and talk about the homelessness in the area and how that impacts the numbers that you have in the lodge.
The Stringer Lodge was built in the 70s, and when it was built, it was probably state-of-the-art shelter for homeless persons. It's aged well, but it clearly hasn't translated into 21st century homelessness. We find more families that are presenting as needing shelter or presenting as literally homeless. We're finding a lot of single women with children. We're also finding single women that has increased, and also the age of homeless persons. I would say anecdotally, I don't have the hard data on it, but just from 20 years of working with the homeless population and homeless persons in the Salvation Army, it's aging. I'm finding far more older people who are coming and suddenly find themselves without a home. Our current configuration, as I was about to say, we're set up at about 43 beds. 2 family dorms, 1 single women's dorm, and 2 men's dorm. And the men and women's dorm stay full. We rarely have an open bed. In fact, we have one lady sleeping on a cot. We've set up a temporary place for her to sleep so that we can provide her with a night's lodging. But when you start stacking people up like sardines and cordwood, it's not comfortable. It's not a good environment. Everybody that comes in the Salvation Army is in a crisis. You don't come to the Salvation Army because things are going well for you.
Absolutely.
And we need more space. We need more bed capacity. Our point in time count with the COC, the Upstate Continuum of Care, I think was over 200, maybe just short of 300 persons. One of the things that struck me as of interest or noteworthy, or something that we should be aware of, over 17 veterans were found to be homeless in Anderson County. So we have a changing demographic. When the Stringer Emergency Lodge was built, we expected mostly men, and it's geared towards single men, dormitories, and we need space to put our families in,
Right.
and to provide comfortable and a welcoming place for them to be able to get out of crisis mode,
Right.
have their basic needs met, and then begin working on whatever issues led to them being homeless. And many of the persons that we serve are what we would call chronically homeless. And they have been homeless for either a number of years, and oftentimes the underlying issues is drug and alcohol,
Right.
or mental health issues. And with partnerships with peer agencies, many of which are United Way funded, we're able to help those persons address those underlying causes and resolve those, and when necessary, bring healing to that person and put them on a path of self-sufficiency and independent living.
And that's the good news. With that being said, about what is the average stay in the lodge?
Well, that varies greatly. It's hard to pinpoint an average stay. If we have a single male who is employable, doesn't have any health issues that would limit his employability, it can be very quick. We had a single mother, Sierra, who had 2 boys with her. And she came, but she was able-bodied, able-minded, didn't have any significant legal issues or fines and stuff. And she worked the system, if you will. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but she went to the various agencies and our peer agencies and worked diligently to address her homelessness. And she was able to get out of here within about a month.
Great.
But we've had people who have disabilities and or have passed fines or may have burnt bridges. They are no longer able to get public housing or any type of assisted housing. So getting them in there, even here in Anderson, I know that we've been working with at least one individual for close to a year, if not a year, helping them slowly but surely go hit all the steps necessary to obtain independent living. Well, this person has been with us, and at that time he has managed to be employed. The vocational rehab has been working with him
Very good.
through his disability, and he's saved up about $7,000. So we're looking to help him find private apartment, a lease, and then we're wanting to see him, to use a family metaphor, fly the nest. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, one of the ways that you're able to fund many of the things you do here at the Salvation Army is through the bell ringing or the red kettles at Christmas.
Red Kettle campaign.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, that's our major fundraiser every year, and everyone's familiar with it. It's an iconic part of Christmas. You can't think of Christmas without thinking of bell ringers, and that's because we've been doing it for over 100 years here in the United States, and it's a great way. It's become tradition for many families. When I get volunteers, when we're out there going to the various Sunday school classes, various civic groups, schools, and we meet and speak with people, they often talk about how it's become a tradition that they learned to give back to the community through the Salvation Army's Red Kettle campaign from their mother.
Absolutely.
And their father, and their parents taught them. You have multiple generations that make it a tradition to either ring the bell as a volunteer, or their children learn philanthropy through that few coins dropped in the Red Kettle outside of our retail partners.
That's a great way for little children. I know when I'm ringing the bell, I love it when they come over and you're able to help them put their coins or at times the green stuff right into the kettle. And what a wonderful thing to be connected with an organization doing so much good for so many in our community that have such a great need. As we think about our community, I often say no one organization can do everything that needs to be done. And so having the cooperative spirit is something that's important. Talk about some of the collaborations that you all have here at the Salvation Army.
Well, at the risk of forgetting a shout out to some of our key partners, in no particular order, let me just share some of the teamwork and the cooperative work and the synergy that we have in the community through our peer agencies. We regularly refer folks to the South Carolina Carolina Department of Mental Health. They actually come here and provide on-site counseling. Austin Wilkes Society will come and do very similar work with anger management. We refer many of our clients, our residents, to the Lot Project to receive clothing items. Clean Start is a good way, particularly for us in the interim when we're unable to provide shelter because we're just full. They provide showers. You mentioned them earlier.
Yes.
And it's a great place for them to get cleaned up, and they get some basic clothing items there as well. Who else? The New Horizons Family Medical will come and bring their mobile clinic and provide medical services and exams and basic diagnosis and counseling, as well as the free clinic here in Anderson. I think that's a few, and hopefully I haven't missed any of my favorite guys and gals who help the Salvation Army serve our neighbors who are in need.
And at the United Way, we are happy to be a partner in a lot of different ways. It always isn't just about the money, but we are happy to be a financial partner in the Boys and Girls Club. We are also happy that we're able to offer FEMA funding.
Yes.
And other times we have other funding that we make available. And we appreciate, again, all the work that you do. And it is about the cooperative spirit, because no one individual or no one organization or agency can do it all. It is about us working together, and we sincerely appreciate the fact that you do have that cooperative spirit. Thank you for your time today, and we look forward to always being a partner with the Salvation Army.
It's been a pleasure, Carol. Thank you.
And how did you get involved with Salvation Army?
Well, my house caught a fire, and I lost everything I had. And after that, I started drinking heavily and going from this place to that place, and then I just got fed up. And one morning, it was raining hard, and I decided to come up here. And when I came up here, they had a room open, so I've been here ever since. So once I came here and adjusted to it, it's not a bad place. You know what I'm saying? It's what you make it, like any other situation. They supply your needs, and then you realize it's a higher power that's watching over you, and everybody's so giving and kind. And you know, it's been a great experience. It's made me a stronger person, and I'm seeing the brighter side of things when I was seeing the negative in everything and even in myself. So it's making me a better person.
We came down here. We were losing a lot of friends in Michigan due to the opioid epidemic, and we were being put down in a rut with all of our friends and our losses, and we decided for a change. And if you want to go ahead and explain.
Yeah, we basically just backed up everything in the car. Well, we bought a car and moved down here because we thought we were going to have a place, and it turned out it didn't work out. So we looked around for a campground, and we decided that was too expensive for, you know, right now, and we were going to try to find a place. So we got on the internet. I think we actually had my mom look around too, and we found the Salvation Army, and we came here, and we couldn't get in at first, so we just kind of hung around and waited, and you know, it was nice. They fed us during the day.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, or else, you know, we would have been
we would have been hungry. We did not stay. We were out there for I think a total of 18 days or something. Yeah, and we did not stay hungry. We did not stay hungry. They acknowledged us as just as if we were in here. Acknowledged us and our needs just as if we were in here. Hygienic needs, things like that, and just as if we had a bed in here, we were acknowledged out there. Just right outside, and they allowed us to stay on their radar to be able to get us a bed in here. And ever since then, I think we've seen a change in ourselves, and we can finally, after all of our losses and whatnot, and all of the friends that we've lost, we've gained so much more, so many more friends.
Yeah, and I got a job, so you know, it's definitely helping out. So, and we're probably about to get a place here soon, so it's been a lot of help, and it's, you know, we're thankful, very thankful.
And with all of your trials, tribulations, there are triumphs. And there are so many people here to be able to share that with. And the second something good is happening, everybody wants to know, so.